So hello there and welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I'll be teaching you how to build phone authentication in Flutter from scratch. So I'm assuming you are new to Flutter and you haven't built phone authentication before. So this is going to be a video that covers integrating phone authentication into your application from scratch, absolute scratch, right? So let's go to what we are going to build. We are first going to have this onboarding page, and then when you click on continue with phone, you have the ability to choose your country and then your phone number, enter your phone number. So I'm going to select my country and then enter my phone number. And you realize that you don't get this button enabled until you enter the right phone number. As in the number that fits that country. So I'm going to send code, which is the action for verifying this number. And this will do its own thing with Firebase, right? And after this verification, it's going to navigate us to a page where we can enter the OTP, right? So there is a page and it is requiring us to enter the OTP to complete the authentication flow. An OTP has been sent to my number, right? And I'm going to enter this OTP here, 878129. So as soon as the user enters the right OTP, we validate the OTP the user has entered, and then we navigate to the home page, log the user in, or show an error if an error happens, right? That's if the OTP is not valid, or the phone number is not valid, or whatever error that we will get, we just handle that error case. So this is what we are going to build, and from here the user can also log out or any other functionality that your app entails. Right, so this is what we are going to build from scratch. Now let's get right into this video. So here in Android Studio, I have a Flutter app running, and I've already added onboarding page because that's not what we are going to focus on today. But it's really very simple. I can show you around. So what we have is within a scaffold, we have some kind of padding, and then we have this GIF over here, right? So this is coming from an asset I've added, and then I have some text, right, and then more text, which is this text over here, then a button, and there's what I've added. Also, I have the Google Fonts package. So if you go to my pubspec.yaml, I have the Google Fonts package added. That's the only dependency I've added for now. And in my main.dat, I'm using this Google Fonts package. So that's the only setup I've made. I've created this onboarding page with a GIF, some text, and a button. Now when we click on this continue with phone button, we want to navigate to a page where we can take the user's number and then do this kind of authentication where we send the user an OTP. So basically we are going to have two pages for the authentication. The page where we take the user's phone number, and then the page where we verify the OTP we send to the user. Right? So to kick things moving, let's first come here, and I have a pages directory where I have my home page, which is the page they'll be navigated to when everything is successful, and then the onboarding page. So within the pages, let's create another file called phone page, and you can call it anything you want. This is just the page that will be taking the phone number input. So it's going to be a stateful widget and phone page. You can name it anything you want, just the page that we are going to take the user's phone number, right? So I'm going to make sure I fix this import, right? And now when we click on continue with phone, we want to navigate to this phone auth page, but I just want to return an empty scaffold. And then on my onboarding page, when I click on this continue with phone, I want to navigate, so navigator.push, and you can do push replacement or just normal push. I'm going with push replacement because I don't want the user to be able to go back to this onboarding page unless they close the app and then reopen. So we are going to return the page we want to go to, which is this phone page. So now when we click on this continue with phone button, this should take us to the phone page, right? So continue with phone, and now we are on the phone page. We can't see anything, and we can't also go back because we use the push replacement method for navigation. Now on the phone page, what we want to do is we want to build out the UI for taking the phone number. Now if you remember the demo, we had this input field where you could select the country, and then you can also add your phone number, right? So in order to have that kind of input field, we are going to depend on an external package called intl phone number input. And I just want us to add that whilst we are here so that we don't go back and forth with the pubspec.yaml file. So you need a package called intl phone number input, and make sure you're adding the latest version. So you can confirm from pub.dev, or you can just enter it here and then add the latest version. So the latest version is this as at this time. And also we need another input field, which is where we will be accepting the OTP on the next page, right? And whilst we are here, I just want us to finish everything related to pubspec.yaml. So that package is also called pinput. Now you can do all of this without necessarily depending on this package, but on these packages, but they just make the experience much better, right? Instead of reinventing the wheel. So pinput, right? And there's the latest version. So we are done with the pubspec.yaml file. Now back to phone page, right? Let's quickly build out this page. So we are first going to have an app bar, and we still can't see anything because we don't have anything in our bar. But then within the app bar, we have a title with a text that says enter your phone number, right? So this is going to be the text. I would like to style the text a little bit, so I'm going to use the title text style property, and that's going to be a text style for my team. So team.of context or text team, and I'm looking for headline small, so headline small. And then also I want to change this headline small because it's not just the headline small that I want to change it. So copy it, and then what do I want to change? I want to change the font size to 18, and then also the font weight to be bold. Now there's just some style. You can obviously ignore this, it's not really necessary, right? So that's going to give us this bold, smaller text. Now just after that, within the body, we are going to have a safe area because we don't want anything to move down or up the notch and this button over here, right? So I'm going to have a safe area with some child, and the child of this safe area will be a column with some children, right? So within this column, this we are going to put our text and maybe our phone input, whatever that we need. So over here, we are going to first put a text, which you can ignore, but I'm going to just put it here. So a text asking the user for phone number. So text, and then we are going to ask something like maybe whatever you want to put here. So we need to verify your phone number. Carrier charges may apply. Right, so this is what you're going to have on our screen. For now, it's touching the edges of the screen. So let's just add some padding around this column. Padding, and then I'm going to give padding all around the 14. Right, so this is going to make it look much better than at first. Now, after this text, we need to have, our input field. So size a box for some space with a height of maybe 30, and then our input field. So this input field will be coming from our international phone number input, the package we added. So phone number text field, international phone number input, and there is this required parameter that we need to pass in. So on input change, for now we are just going to make it an empty function. It doesn't do anything, and we have to move the const from here because this can't be const, right? So this input field when we save, this is what we are going to have. And now we need to style it a bit. If you are okay with this style, I mean, that's okay, but I'm going to just change the styles a bit. So the first thing I want to change is the selector config, and you can leave this as it is, so you can just check the documentation for the styles you can apply. So selector config, and what I need to change here, or what I want to change, is to use emoji set to true, and then also change the selector type, right, to be phone input selector type but bottom sheet. Now what that will do is going to pop this as a bottom sheet instead of the alert dialog, right, or the dialog that it came with. So from here you can just enter your phone number, right, everything should look good. But I also want to style this input a little bit, right? So aside the selector config, let's also style the input. So within the international phone number input widget, I'm going to style the input decoration. So input decoration, and there is going to be an input decoration, and what we need to pass in is the border, and I want outlined input border. So when I do this, this is just going to give me this outline input border, and of course we can all see that the size is too huge for what we want to do. So we can just change the padding with the content padding property and set it to maybe a value edge insert, right? And I want to change this to symmetric. So I just want to target the horizontal section of this input, which is this side, and set it to 12, so something like this, and this is going to make it much smaller, right? So this is going to be for our input field. And next, what we need to add is our button, right? So after this, I'm going to add a spacer widget, and now the spacer widget will just push everything to the top and then bottom. We're just going to create this kind of big gap over here. So after the spacer, we can have our button. So maybe field button, which is a type of button in Flutter. You can use elevated button or any type of button you want, and then you can put any text here. So get OTP or verify, whatever you want to do here. And I want this to stretch to the 100% of the screen width. So I'm going to just wrap it in a sizer box and then give it a width of 100, which is double that infinity, and that should do the trick, right? So this is what we have for the phone number input. Now I'm going to just add this cons here, right, and also remove these comments. Now we want this get OTP button to be enabled only when the input field is valid, right? So how do we know it's valid? We are going to create a variable to track that state. So just under the state, and that's one reason why we made this a stateful widget, just under this state class, we are going to create a variable, and it's going to be a boolean, which is enable OTP button, and then initially it's going to be set to false, because when the user gets on the page, obviously they haven't entered anything first, so the button shouldn't be enabled. And how do we disable buttons in Flutter? It's very simple. If you set the onPress property to null, that's going to disable the button. So for here, I'm just going to set the onPress property to null, and we can say the button is disabled. But then we don't want to always set it to null. We want to set it conditionally. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a ternary. So if enable OTP button, so if enable OTP button, then we want to have our callback function. Else, we're going to set the onPress to null. And what this will do is, if we have enabled the OTP button, then we can have this function. Otherwise, we are having null. And for now, it is false, so it is falling back to the null. How do we then set this to true? How do we know that our input field is now valid? So within the international phone number input, we have a method called onInputValidated, and this is going to return true when our input field is valid, right? So when this is valid, it's going to return as a boolean, right? We want to set state and then set our enable OTP button to this value. So this boolean will determine whether we should enable our button or not. And for now, we can try it out. So I'm going to choose Ghana and then enter a valid Ghana number. So and that doesn't seem to work. So let's first print this to see what's going on. And I don't know why this is not working, but let's create a variable to store our number, which is the number we are entering first. So I'm going to create a string and then phone number and initially set it to an empty string. So within this input, I'm going to provide this number to our on input change. So if our input is changed, we are going to get a latest value, and I'm going to set state and then change our phone number to be our new value. Now none of this is working, so let's hot restart.
A few moments later.
Face any kind of challenge like that, just try restarting the app, and I think that should work. And there are added some few properties. So first, I set autofocus to true. I set format input also to true, which means that it's going to create these kind of gaps in the input, right, which is the phone number. I also set the keyboard type to be phone, right, which I think it is phone by default, so this wasn't really necessary. I was just trying to figure out what was wrong, right? But then I just restarted the app and everything seems to be working. So from here you can choose your country and everything works, right? This button is enabled, and you realize that as soon as I just enter even one less or one more, it just disables this button. All right, good. So when we click on get OTP, we are going to call a function that is going to trigger the whole sign up flow, like the phone auth. And when everything is done, which is the code is sent, we are going to be navigated to a page where we can enter our OTP code. So let's first work on that page, and I'm going to call that page verify OTP. So verify OTP. And on this verify OTP page is going to be a stateful widget. So verify OTP page and phone page. So this can also be page. Verify OTP page, and let's fix our import. So dex yeah, and this is going to be first a scaffold, so just a blank space, a blank page. And on this page we are going to require a few things, right? So first we are going to require the phone number, which we used on the enter your phone number page, and then we're also going to require some few other parameters that will be coming from Firebase. But for now we haven't integrated Firebase, so we're just going to require the phone number. So over here, just anywhere here, you can create a field, final field. So final string phone number, and then require this phone number from the constructor. So require this dot phone number. Now on this verify OTP page, you can use the phone number and then display the phone number on top of the page. But before that, let's just make sure we're navigating to this enter your phone number page. We are navigating to the verify OTP page. So on this page, we're going to create a function called get OTP. So get OTP, and this get OTP function will for now just navigate to the verify OTP page, because we don't have the functionality for getting an OTP yet. So push and material page route, so verify OTP page, and we need to pass in our phone number, and the phone number is going to be the phone number we had. Now when everything is okay, we want to call this get OTP function instead of the anonymous function we created. So if enable OTP button, then the onPress will call the get OTP function. So for now, if you click on get OTP, that should call this get OTP function, and that should navigate us to our verify OTP page. And it's just an empty scaffold, we don't have anything here. So what I'm going to do on this page is that I'm going to copy the app bar we had on the other page. So on the enter your phone number page, which is this page, I'm just going to copy the app bar we had here and then take it to the verify OTP page like this, and we can have the const here, right? And instead of showing enter your phone number here, I'm going to put the user's phone number here. So phone number, and we need to do widget dot phone number because we're in a stateful widget, and this is showing the number I entered, right? Now within the body, and make sure that you're within the scaffold, but then the body, we are going to have a safe area, and then within this safe area, we're going to have pardon first to make sure that nothing on this page is touching the edges of the screen. So pardon and everything 14. Then the child is going to be a column with some children. Now I'm going to add a text over here just like we had from this phone page. So I'm going to copy this text, and then in the verify your OTP page, I'm going to put this text there which says that to complete your phone number verification, please enter the 6-digit code sent to your phone number, something like this, right? You can put any text you want there, and then we can have a sizer box. So if I make sure that I'm seeing what I've written over here, we can have a sizer box. So sizer box for some space, maybe 20. Now we need to have the 6-digit pin input. Now that's the reason why we added a pin input package to our pubspec.yaml. So if you come to pubspec.yaml, we have the INTL phone number input and the pin input. Those are the two important packages we need to make this process much simpler, right? So we are going to use a pin input and I have to make sure that I'm at the right place. So pin put, and if I can't find it, probably I need to run Flutter pub get. So I'm just going to run this again. Right, now I have pin input. So when I save, by default it comes with this input fields, right? And if you enter, it moves to the next, just like this. So just by calling pin input, this is what we get. Now I want us to style this a little bit. So the first thing we want to do is increase the length to 6, because Firebase by default returns 6 digits for the OTP. Now I want us to also set some kind of styles. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to style all this. In order to style this, we need to use a pin theme. So you can easily go to pub.dev and then search for the pin put package. Now you can look at the documentation on how to style your input field. So you first need to copy one of these, right? Default pin theme, and then style this. Now I've already done the styling, so I'm going to copy them in and then show you guys. So I first have a pin theme, and then some width and height, and then I have some margin, I have some text style, and then some decoration with a border, right? And then border radius. This is my default pin theme. This is how a default box should look like. And when the box is focused, I have this focus pin theme which just modifies the border color a bit. And then when it is submitted, I also have this submitted theme which modifies the color a bit. So I'm going to leave all this linked in the GitHub repo. From there you can copy these theme styles and then add it. So pin put, we are going to have a default pin theme, and that's going to be the default pin theme we've created, and we can't have a const here, so this is going to be the default. Right now, when the pin put is focused, we are going to apply a focused pin theme, and then when it is submitted, we are going to also apply a submitted pin theme. Right, so this is what we are going to get at the end of the day, like this. And now when this pin put is submitted, so submitted like this, when this is submitted, we can look for uncompleted. When this is completed, which is the user has entered all the 6 digits, we can get the total value, which is all the number the user has entered, and then validate this number against the SMS code we sent, right, using Firebase. And of course we are going to get into that, so we can do our validation here, or you can optionally add a button and then add an on-chain to this pin put. So that's going to look something like this. We're going to add a button, so maybe you create a string OTP code like this, and then you are going to add an unchanged. So unchanged, you're going to get a value, and you're going to set state, and then you're going to set the OTP code equal to the value you are getting, right? So at the end of the day, your OTP code would be within this variable. Then when the user clicks on a submit button you provide, use the OTP code for the validation. But in this case, we're not going to do that. We are just going to wait, and immediately the user finish entering this OTP code, we are just going to handle our validation, just like how WhatsApp and other platform does it. So I'm going to remove this on change, and then also remove this variable we created here, right? And when everything is successful, we will just navigate to the home page and log the user in. Now that is about the UI, right? We have this get OTP code that takes us to this page, and if I hot restart, as we start from here, continue with phone, we enter our number, get OTP, we are brought to this page where we can enter our OTP code. Now in the second part of this tutorial, we are going to connect our project with Firebase. So this is very easy. First, we need to have a Firebase project, and second, we need to connect it to our Flutter project. So if you don't have a Firebase project, go to your browser and then go to your Firebase console. So console.firebase.google.com, and you need to create a project. Now creating a project is very easy. Just add project and give it a project name. It could be any name. Just give it a project name and then create this project. I've already created a project for this, so I'm not going to create a new one. This is the project I created. Now after creating your project, just go to the project dashboard. So it's going to look something like this, and you have to come to the build authentication. Now when you come to this build authentication, you'll be asked to get started with authentication. Just click on get started, and then it will bring you to this page. And now on this page, navigate to the sign in method, which is this tab over here, and enable phone auth. So initially you are going to have this, and you need to just click on the phone and then enable this. So this will set up our Firebase project for working with phone auth, right? So it means phone authentication is enabled for our Firebase project. Now we need to connect this Firebase project with our Flutter project, and we are going to do that using the Flutter Fire CLI. It's just an easy way of connecting Firebase with Flutter. So just come to Google and search for Flutter Fire. Click on the first link. That is going to take you to this page, and we are going to see a message that this page is archived. So just click on this link over here, and that is going to take you to this page. Now on this page, you have all the instructions for setting up with Flutter Fire, which is very easy. I'm not going to go through that. It is very easy. All you have to do is to install the Firebase CLI, and there is a link over here, and then log in into Firebase using the Google account you've used to create your project, right? That's very easy. And then you run this command, that pub global activate Flutter Fire CLI. That is all. You are going to now have Flutter Fire installed on your machine, right? So the next is configure your apps to use Firebase. So Flutter Fire configure, and this is the command we are looking for. If you have Flutter Fire installed, you just have to copy this command, Flutter Fire configure, and then come to your Flutter project. So within the Flutter project, I'm going to open the terminal and then run this command, Flutter Fire configure. Now this is going to fetch all my available Firebase projects, and I just need to select the one I want to link with this Flutter project. So I'm going to link this phone auth, which is the one I created specifically for this video. So I'm going to link this phone auth, and it's going to ask me the platforms I want to configure. By default, Android and iOS is ticked, and that's what I want. I want both Android and iOS. I'm just going to hit enter, and this will configure Firebase for both Android and then iOS, right? And this is going to throw an error sometimes. You don't have to really worry about it. So after this, we can just close the terminal, and what we need to do is to go to our pubspec.yaml file and then add Firebase core. So in order to work with Firebase, we need two dependencies, Firebase core, and then more specifically for authentication, we need Firebase auth. And make sure you're adding the latest version of these packages. So Firebase core and Firebase auth, you can find the latest version on pub.dev, or you can just use the IntelliSense in VS Code or Android Studio, right? So I've added the latest version of these packages, and now when I go to my my project structure, I will see that a new file has been added, which is Firebase_options, and that was generated by the Flutter Fire CLI, right? So what we are going to do is that we are going to set up our project with Firebase. Just adding it is not enough. So in your main.dat, let's first convert this main function into an async function, and then we need to add these two lines. So widget flutter binding.ensure initialize, that has to be added first before we initialize Firebase. So await Firebase.initialize app. We need to import this from the Firebase core package or dependency we added. Now in this initialize app, we can pass options, and this options is going to be default Firebase options.current platform. And we can also import this from our Firebase options file. Now after we've added all these, let's just stop the app and then run it again. Now our app is running, so it means the Firebase was set up successfully. Now from here, what we need to do is to start with our authentication. So I'll first be creating a class that will house all our methods and functionality regarding authentication. So within this lib directory, I'm going to create a folder called controllers, and within this controllers folder, create a file called auth controller. Now within this auth controller file, we are going to have a class called phone auth controller. Now this class will just house all our methods, so it's not really going to have any kind of solid functionality. It's just going to be for grouping our methods, our various methods regarding authentication. So we are first going to have a static method called send OTP, and this method will take in a build context and then the phone number, right? And the reason why we are passing in build context and phone number is that we would need to show some kind of loader or a snack bar when an error happens, right? And by the nature of Firebase auth, it's a little bit difficult if you want to do it outside this kind of method, so you just get a clue very soon. So build context and then phone number. Now this is where the magic happens. So we are going to call our Firebase auth and then verify phone number method to verify the phone number we are getting, then send an OTP to this phone number. And this is how it's going to look like. First, we are going to use Firebase auth.instance a lot. So I'm going to create a variable for that too. So that's going to be static final auth equal to Firebase auth, and make sure you've added the Firebase auth dependency dot instance. Right now, within this send OTP, we are going to have a try catch, and within this try catch, we are going to have await auth dot verify phone number. So this verify phone number comes with a lot of methods that we have to complete. So I'm first going to push all these to next line. So this and this, like this, and we need to complete these methods first by supplying the phone number the user entered. So phone number, and then we pass in our phone number. So on the verify phone number, we pass in our phone number, and when the verification is complete, this is a callback, right? When the verification fails, we are going to get a callback. When the code is sent, we are going to get a callback, and all these methods will give us some kind of a callback. So all this is the only line you need to send the OTP. When we call verify phone number and the code is sent, so in this code sent method, we want to navigate to the verify OTP page. We only navigate when the code is sent. So let's first put our logic here. So if the code is sent, we want to navigate to our page, which is material page route, and then our verify OTP page, and we need to pass in our phone number because we need that. Now we also need to pass in our verification ID and then this first resend token. This is optional, but we need to pass in our verification ID because that's what we will use to verify the code that was sent when we are verifying the OTP, right? So when we look at the type of this, it's a string. Therefore, in the verify OTP page, I'm going to add another required string over here, so final string, and then I'm looking for verification ID, and I'm going to require this. So we need to then pass this verification ID to our verify OTP page. Now when the verification fails, there is going to be of type Firebase auth exception, right? So there are lots of errors that can be thrown from this failure, right? There are lots of errors. We can have, if there is error dot code equal to maybe invalid phone number, right? That is if the user entered an invalid phone number, then we can handle that differently, maybe showing a snack bar, right? So scaffold messenger dot off context dot hide current snack bar, and then show snack bar, right? And maybe passing our snack bar. The content is going to be maybe a text that says invalid phone number. So there is if the error is a type of invalid phone number, right? And maybe if it is too many requests, then we can handle that appropriately, right? So we just show a snack bar that says too many requests for the verification field. That is, Firebase does a kind of verification for each phone number, and Firebase will return an error when the verification fails. And you can also have some kind of a generic error, right? So if it is not any of this, so maybe this could be else if, and maybe you have an else over here, right? And maybe you show that something went wrong with verification, right? So this could be how you would handle your verification with Firebase when an error is thrown. You can handle the errors just like we've done over here, one after the other, for each error type that you like to handle, or you can have just one snack bar that shows the error message. So imagine I don't want to do all this, right? I'm going to comment all these out. I could just have one general snack bar that just shows this error message. So I'm just going to copy this so that it becomes much faster. And then instead of the text being this, we are going to put our error.message like this. So error.message or something went wrong. And this can be constant, right? Something like this. So this is always going to show the message associated with that error. Firebase has a message which comes with each type of error. Probably you might not want to show Firebase version of the error message. That is why you use the error code to handle the message. We provide a custom message for these errors, right? So any of this will work, but for now I'm just going to go with a generic approach for all these cases. So this is when the verification fails. Now when the code is sent, we just navigate to the verify OTP page. When the code auto retrieval times out, we don't really care about that. That is for Android, right? So on Android, you can automatically retrieve the code, and what you can do in this particular case is that you show an error message. So maybe we couldn't retrieve this code or whatever, but most of the time I just ignore this, right? I don't really use it for anything. And if some kind of error happens, so first let's handle an error which is related to Firebase exception. So we can say on Firebase auth exception, that is if this process, this method verify phone number, throws an error that is not being handled by any of the callbacks here, right, then that is going to fall within this catch block. Now on the catch block, we are first specifically handling Firebase auth exception. When the error is of type Firebase auth exception, then as I said, I just want to show this generic message, which is the error message associated with the error. So I'm just going to paste it here. This is if anything goes wrong with Firebase. Now if something goes wrong and it's not Firebase auth exception for whatever reason, I just don't want to show this kind of error. Now finally, that is when everything is complete. I would like to do something, but for now we're going to leave that block empty, right? Now let's look at verifying the OTP. So this is about sending the OTP. There is a method for sending the OTP. Now when it comes to verifying the OTP, I'm just going to create another method. So I'm going to collapse this and create another method below here. Verify OTP, and this method will take in the build context, because we like to show some snack bar, the verification ID, and then the SMS code. You can make this name parameters or positional parameters. It doesn't really matter. So in this verify OTP, I'm going to have my try catch block. So try and then catch on Firebase auth exception, right? So within the try block, this is where I'm going to handle the verification. Now, in order to verify this OTP, we use something called phone auth provider.credential, right? So we create a variable called credential, and you can use final, it doesn't really matter. So final or var or any we want to create a variable, and it is phone auth provider, and this is coming from our Firebase. So Firebase, we have Firebase auth, we have phone auth provider, and then we are going to use phone auth provider dot credential, and then we are going to pass in our verification ID and then our SMS code. Now, if everything is successful, we are going to get some kind of credentials that we can use to sign the user in. This is what you need: phone auth provider.credential, passing of verification ID, which was the verification ID we had from sending the OTP, and then the SMS code the user entered. Now, if everything is successful, we are then going to sign the user in. So using the auth, sign in with credential, that's the method we want to use to sign in, and then we pass in this credential we had. And if everything is successful, then we want to navigate to the home page. So then let's navigate to the home page, because if something fails, this is going to throw an error. Like, let's say if the OTP code or the SMS code is invalid, this is going to throw an error that will be catched by this Firebase auth exception. So the sign-in process, if everything goes successfully, then we can navigate to the home page. Now we have this error over here, not an error but a lengthy rule that do not use build context across a single gap. So in order to fix that, we are going to add a condition here: if not context dot mounted return, right? So that will take care of this lengthy rule. Now in the Firebase auth exception, we can handle the individual errors for when maybe too many requests, just like I showed you in the verification field. So we can handle all types of errors, but then again, I'm just going to use the error message associated with those kind of errors and then show it to the user, right? So over here, I'm going to copy this and then paste it here. Now, if any type of error happens, so this is when a Firebase auth exception is thrown. Now, if any type of error happens in the process of verifying this OTP, we can just print this for now. So this is basically going to be the authentication flow. We send the OTP and then we verify the OTP. Now back to the phone page, we will have an error over here from the get OTP, because at this point we're just navigating straight to the verify OTP page. We don't want to do that, but then we want to call our auth controller. So auth controller, phone auth controller, and they want to call send OTP and then pass in our context and then phone number. So this is what we want to do. Let's hot restart and then try this for the first time. So continue with phone, and then I'm going to choose this and then enter a number here. Right, now I'm going to get OTP and see what happens. So we get an error: please register custom URL scheme app blah blah blah. So this is a Firebase error, right? And we are showing it using our snack bar. So in order to fix this error, we first need to add something to our info.p list. So we need to add our reverse client ID to our info.p list. And this is what you have to do. This is only for iOS. So you first go to your projects directory and then open the iOS directory. Now within the iOS directory, look for the runner directory and you should see Google service-info info.plist. Right, so this is the file you are looking for. Now you open this file, you should see a portion that says key is reverse client ID, and then the value is a string, that is your reverse client ID associated with this project. If you don't see reverse client ID and you don't see anything related to client ID, this is what you have to do. First, go to Firebase, so Firebase, your project, and then go to your project settings. Right, so on Firebase, just click on this setting icon and then choose a project setting. Scroll down to where we have phone Auth, which is for the iOS, the name of your app and then the iOS version, and then download the Google service info.plist file again. So just come here and download this file again. Now if you download this file, just come to a project and then replace the existing file with this one, making sure that the new file has the reverse client ID. If the new file you downloaded from Firebase doesn't have the reverse client ID, this is what you have to do. Go to authentication and then sign in method, then add the Google sign in method. So when you add the Google sign in method, you'll be asked to download a new version of the Google service info.plist file. This one should now have the reverse client ID. Now after getting the Google service info.plist file, which has the reverse client ID, make sure you place it with the existing one. That is not the end. We now need to link this reverse client ID we have in the file with our info.plist. Now what you have to do is, if you are in Android Studio, right click on the iOS folder, go to the Flutter section and choose Open iOS/macOS model in Xcode. So when you do this, this is going to open your iOS project in Xcode. If you are in VS Code, just right click and open your project, your iOS project in Xcode. Now after opening the project in Xcode, come to the project directory here, right, and then choose runner. Now after choosing runner, come to info, which is this section over here. Now come to URL types, which is the last section over here, and then expand this URL types. Now in this URL types, you see URL schemes over here. This should be empty, and that's the reason why we have the error. So just come to your project where you have your Google service info.plist and copy the reverse client ID. So I'm going to copy my reverse client ID, open my Xcode, my iOS project, and then paste this in the URL schemes. So I'm going to paste this here. Now after pasting this, you have to close Xcode. So make sure you quit Xcode. So I'm going to quit Xcode like this, and then come to iOS runner info.plist. Now when you come to the info.plist file, look for a key that is called CF bundle URL types. When you see this key, there should be a value associated with it. That's an array, which is a dictionary, right, consisting of a dictionary. But the most important part you are looking for is this string part that has your reverse client ID added. So this is just a confirmation that the reverse client ID we added was successful. To recap, all we need to do is to add our reverse client ID from the Google service info.plist to our info.plist under a key of CF bundle URL types. And that is what we did in Xcode. Now after this, just close the project. So I'm going to close the running app and then run the app again. So I'm going to run this app again. Now let's try this authentication flow once more. So I'm going to click on continue with phone, choose my country, and then enter a phone number here, then get OTP. And this time around it works. So I'm verifying you are not a robot. There's Firebase thing, and then after that it's going to navigate us to the OTP page, and an OTP should be sent to my phone number. So I'm going to cast my phone so that we can see. and this is my phone. So when I go to messages, we should see that we have this code over here, right, from phone auth, and this is the test I did today. So we just have to copy this code and then paste it, right? So over here we are just going to paste the code, but then we don't have the logic for handling the code as at now. So this, but then nothing is going to happen, because in the verify OTP page on completed, this is where we said we will handle the validation. So on completed, we want to call our phone auth controller dot verify OTP, and then we pass in the verification ID, which is verification ID should be widget dot verification ID, and then the SMS code should be the value from this uncompleted callback. Right now, nothing is going to happen because we'd have to enter this again for the uncompleted fire, and this is working, but we can't see anything because we don't have any loader in our whole authentication flow. And you see that we've been navigated to the home page because I entered the right value, and this verify OTP was successful. Now this is the authentication flow. I want us to introduce loaders in this flow so that we will see when an action is going on, like we are verifying the OTP, right? So I'm going to add a dependency in the pubspec.yaml that is going to give us an easy way of showing a loader from every page. So loader, and then I'm looking for overlay. Now we can search for documentation for this package on pub.dev. So pub.dev, and then search for loader overlay. We need to configure this package so that it can work in our entire app. What we need to do is to wrap our material app in this global loader overlay widget in our main.dat, and I'm going to close this files. Main.dat, let's wrap our material app in a global overlay loader overlay widget. After this, we'll be able to show a loading indicator from anywhere by using this context.loaderoverlay.show method or context.loaderoverlay.hide when we want to hide it. So let's try that out. And then the first thing is in our auth controller, when we call await auth.verify phone number, we want to show our overlay. So we are going to use context.loaderoverlay.show, and this is going to throw an error at first because we need to import our package loader overlay here before we can use this. Now after the verification is successful, or the code has been sent, specifically after the code has been sent, before we navigate, we want to hide our loader. If any error happens, we want to also hide our loader. I don't hide it in both places, which is on Firebase auth exception and then this catch. Over here, I'm just going to put it in the finally block. So if any error happens, whether Firebase auth exception or a general error, we just want to hide our overlay. Also, when we send our SMS code, we are hiding our overlay. Now in the verify OTP, when we start the verification, we want to show the loader, context.loaderoverlay.show, and if everything is successful, right, so before we navigate to the home page, we also want to hide our overlay. Now finally, if an error happens, so whether an error happens or nothing happens at all, we just want to make sure that we are hiding our loader. Let's just go through the whole authentication flow once more to confirm that our loaders are now working. So first, I'm going to stop the app and then run it again. Now when I enter my phone number and hit get OTP, we don't see any loader because it immediately opens a page for the verification. Now on this page, hopefully when we enter the right OTP code, we should see some kind of loader. I want to enter a wrong OTP for now, and there is a loader but it's a bit white, so we get an error right, which is not really a very good error message for an invalid OTP code. So it's a good case to handle the errors manually, right, where you use the if statement check, comparing the code to maybe too many requests or invalid OTP code, and then rendering a custom error. Now I'm going to enter the right OTP code, and there is this loader, but the color is white, and then it's on a white overlay, so it's a bit difficult to see, but then the authentication is successful. Right, now the last thing we'll be implementing, because this video is a bit longer, is the logout functionality. So in our auth control, I'm going to create one last method for logout. So just after this, I'm going to call await auth.signout. Right, so that's the only thing I'm going to use in this case. On our home page, we have this button, and when we press it, we want to log out. So I'm going to call my phone auth controller dot sign out, which is going to sign the user out, and we would like to navigate the user after signing out. So just after this, we can just use navigator dot off context, not pop, but then push replacement, or you can use any of these that can log the person out and push to the login page, making sure they can go back to the previous page. So push replacement can do the job over here, and then in the builder we are going to return our onboarding page. Now before we test this logout, when a user is authenticated and the user opens the app, we want to keep the authentication state, right? We don't want to move them to the onboarding page for them to start the whole authentication process all over. So in order to do that, let's come to our main.dat, and instead of always starting from the onboarding page, we are first going to check if we have a user logged in. So what we are going to do is to Firebase auth.instance.current user is not equal to now, then it means we have a user logged in. So then we want to go to the home page, else we want to go to the onboarding page. And you can maybe make this check some kind of a getter in your controller or anything, right? I just prefer to put it here because it's very simple. Now when I hot restart and this doesn't seem to work. Okay, so the issue is with the check over here. So if it's not equal to now, right? So if this is not equal to now, then we have a user. So we have to go to the home page, right? So this was supposed to be the check not equal to now. Now let's come to our home page and then try the logout. So logout, and we are back to the onboarding page. So that is all for iOS. Now on Android, we're not going to really change much, right? So I'm going to run this project quickly on my Android device, which is my Android emulator. So our Android app is running. Let's try the whole authentication flow on Android. So I'm just going to go over the whole process again. It says the app is not authorized to use Firebase authentication. Please verify the correct SHA-1 and SHA-256 are added. So on Android, in order to work with phone auth, implement phone auth for Android, we need to add some keys to our Firebase project, right? So first, let's come to our project settings, and then on Android, we need to add this SHA certificate fingerprint. Now, how do we add this? So just hover over this question mark and then go to see this page. Now when you come here, you are going to see a command over here. So we have one for Mac or Linux and then one for Windows. Depending on the operating system you are using, you would have to use one of these commands to generate some keys that have to be added to Firebase project. So I'm going to copy this because I'm on Mac, and then open my terminal. So if you're on Windows, you can open your CMD terminal, or you can use the terminal of VS Code or any editor you are using, just any terminal, and then paste this command here. So I'm going to zoom in and then paste this command. When you are being asked to enter key store password, just enter Android, so in lowercase Android, and then this is going to generate some signing keys for you, right? So I'm just going to copy this, and make sure you copy it well, right? So I'm going to copy this without any spaces, don't copy more than necessary, and then come to your project and add fingerprint. So it's going to automatically recognize the type of fingerprint you've added, and then you click on save. Now add another fingerprint, and then let's copy the second one, and make sure you are only copying the values without any empty space, and then paste this one as well and click on save. Then let's come to our app, hot restart, and then try again. Now this time around I'm having we have blocked all requests from this device, blah blah blah. So I'm going to use a different number for this. Good. So we still get the same error after we've added the SHA keys. So the clue over here is that Firebase Auth doesn't work on emulators. So if you add your SHA keys and then you are still getting issues related to SHA keys, then you have to run this project on a physical device to try out the phone authentication. So I'm going to run this on my physical device and then cast the screen instead of the emulator. Yeah, so this is my Android device, and we are going to go through the flow with a physical device. So continue with phone, and then I'm going to choose my country, and I'm going to enter a phone number and get OTP. So an OTP has been sent to this number, and I'm going to enter that, so which means authentication is now working. So in Android we can see the loader because of how the Android spinner looks like, right? So this is the whole authentication flow. On Android you don't really have to do much because it works cross-platform. Now there are a few errors that you might get on Android, and one is multi-dex error, which all you have to do is to just increase your minimum SDK version. So if you get any error related to multi-dex, just come to Android app, build or Gradle, and then look for where you have main SDK version and set it to anything above 21. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. If you have any question, leave it in the comment section, and I will see you in the next one.